It's Jordan, welcome back to my channel. Let's go ahead and get the elephant out of the room. First, I feel like you can probably see the bright blue tape on my shoulders right now. If you follow me on Twitter, then you might have known why this video or any of my videos are so late at the moment. I've been having really bad back pain recently to the point where I can't sit to edit my videos. I can't sit here to film my videos. I'm currently taped to try to help with the back pain. I know it's a new fashion statement. I know you're all super jealous that you don't have your own. Maybe I should have picked a shirt that has like a cold shoulder on it, but this is a brand new shirt that I got for my birthday and I just love it so much. I think it's so cute. Although the blue tape does kind of distract from it. I just like put my hair over it. It won't be as distracting. Anyway, today I'm going to tell you everything that I read and watched in the month of July. I had a super productive reading month in July. One, because it was BookTube-A-Thon, and two, I just had a really good month in general, even outside of BookTube-A-Thon. Let's go ahead and talk about all of the books that I read in the month of July. So very quickly, let's get my BookTube-A-Thon books out of the way first. I did do an entire wrap-up video for BookTube-A-Thon. However, if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts on any of these books, I would check out my Goodreads reviews for them. I do write a review for every single book that I read, and that is always the best place to go to get the most in-depth thoughts. So for BookTube-A-Thon, I read The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. Map of Fates by Maggie Hall, which I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. Summer Days and Summer Nights by Stephanie Perkins, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And The Progeny by Tosca, Leigh, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. Dang, I had a good BookTube-A-Thon. Everything got like a 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. It was a good week of reading. As for the books that I read in July, the first book I read was Unblemished by Sara, which is actually a reread for me. This is a urban fantasy story in which a young girl finds out that the birthmark that she's always hated is actually the key salvation to another world. Within the story, there are parallel worlds, or which they call reflections, and she is from the second reflection and we live in the third reflection. So in the second reflection, her birthmark actually plays a very important role in saving their kingdom. I do have an entire non-spoiler book review for it from when I read it the first time, but I did enjoy it just as much the second time around. I'm not going to go too much into it because it is a reread and you can check out my review if you want to know more. I did give it the same rating the second time that I gave it the first time, which was a 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I picked up the sequel to Unblemished, which is Unraveling by Sara. I was sent this copy by the publisher. However, all thoughts and opinions are my own as always. And I really enjoyed this book. Like, I liked it so much more than the first book, which I actually really loved. You can tell that Sara's writing has improved. She's grown as an author. I really liked seeing more of the reflections. We travel outside of just the second and the third in this novel. So I liked seeing that bigger scope of the world. I also really enjoyed the element of pirates in this novel. I thought that was a really fun addition to the story. It felt very Once Upon a Time Captain Hook-esque. I really enjoyed the development of the love triangle too, and liked how the two boys' story arcs grew and how they became so much more complex characters. All around, the story became more complex, the characters became more complex, the world became more complex. I did find though that in this novel, constant references to popular things in our culture pulled me out of the story, because we do spend so much more time in the other reflections than we do in our world. I just found it to be a little distracting. There's supposed to be in these fantastical lands with fantastical creatures, and then you're continually referencing things that are in my world, so it just kept pulling me out of that fantastical element. It was just very heavy-handed. There were instances where I was like, this is a little overkill and I don't feel like we need one every other paragraph. The ending was so well done. I'm so excited for the final book in this trilogy. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I really wanted some fun summer contemporary novels. The only one I really did have was Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. It actually is unfortunately my least favorite of her novels. I just really love the friendship and the fun and the summer staples that she normally includes. This one has them, but they're so much more familial based than they are relationship based or friendship based. We follow a teenager named Taylor who learned at the beginning of the novel that her father has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he wants nothing more but to go to their old lake house where they used to spend summers as a family. 5 years ago when they were last there, Taylor burned some bridges with some friends. He's forced to confront those consequences as well as confront the impending death of her father, and she's a character who always runs from things that trouble her. I think that someone who has a much more established, deeper father-daughter relationship would enjoy this a lot more than I did. Like, my dad's great and all, but we don't have that like daddy's girl type of relationship. So I wasn't as impacted as somebody who does have that very fatherly daughter bond with their dad would have from this novel. I just wasn't as heartbroken emotionally by it as I wanted to be, and I also kind of missed the friendship element that she normally has in her novels. Like, there wasn't scavenger hunt and game playing, and I understand that wasn't the point or focus of this novel, but that's just my favorite part of Morgan Matson's books. I wanted it. So in the end, I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read in July was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. We follow a young girl who wants nothing more than to go to Caraval. She writes to the proprietor of Caraval Legend every single year, hoping to be the lucky one chosen to travel to the island to experience Caraval. She doesn't receive a response for many, many years, and then finally, on the eve of her wedding, she is granted a trip to Caraval. So her and her younger sister escape their abusive father and travel to Caraval to experience one last flight of fancy before she gets married. It's a much darker and more dangerous place than the girls were anticipating, and there's a very fine line between what is magic and what is real and what is deadly and what is a trick, and it's very hard to perceive what is going on. I liked the atmosphere, I liked the entire vibe, the entire feel of Caraval. It was just so mysterious. That was my favorite part of the novel, was just not knowing what to believe and what not to believe. I also really loved the romance. Like, I wished there was so much more of the romance aspect than of anything else. Really focus on the relationship between the two sisters. I feel like if you have a sister and you have that really strong sisterly connection, you will relate to this book a little bit better. In general, this was just kind of like an average, solid fantasy. Like, there was nothing extremely unique about it or extremely different about it that like really put it above all the other fantasy that I read. I think if you are a primarily contemporary urban fantasy reader, you will enjoy this a lot more than someone who continually reads contemporary. Everything that a fantasy should have, it just needed a little extra something. I have heard that she's writing a sequel, and I cannot wait because I think we're going to be following a different character. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the sequel. I ended up giving it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. So those are all of the books that I read for the month of July. Let's go ahead and talk about the TV shows that I watched. So I cannot believe my stupid dumbass brain did not remember to talk about Game of Thrones in my TBR video. That is really the only thing I've watched this month is Game of Thrones. We've had the first 3 episodes of season 7 now, and I am loving it. This season has been on point so far. We've gotten some great battle sequences, some great reveals, so many reunions that we've been waiting for since season 1, and I'm loving all of it. I'm living for it. I love the dragons. I love the fact that Daenerys is finally in Westeros. I love that we have some cooperation between her armies and the northern armies, and I am so excited to see Cersei get taken down. I hate that bitch. I need more White Walkers in my life so badly. Like, I am so intrigued by the White Walkers. Anytime we get any little hint of them, I'm like, White Walkers are on the screen, everybody be quiet. I find them to be the most interesting part of the story, and they're the part of the story that we know the least about. Less of the Westeros battle for the Iron Throne. Like, I don't care. As long as Cersei's not sitting on it, I don't really care who sits on it. Obviously, Daenerys. I have been thoroughly enjoying this season so far. And then the only other series that I have watched this month was the rest of season 7 of One Tree Hill. I had started it in June and I finished the last like half-ish of it at the very beginning of July. I haven't continued with the series as of yet. Was starting to lose interest in it again, which happened the first time that I watched these later seasons. I just don't love the cast as much. We don't see a lot of interaction between the various groups of people. Like we have Brooke and her life, we have Haley and her life with Nathan, and then we have Quinn and her life with Clay, but there's not a lot of interaction between the groups, which was like the best part of One Tree Hill, is seeing the three girls, Haley, Peyton, and Brooke, interacting together and being friends, and then having that brother relationship, that Luke and Nathan relationship that the whole show was based on, and not having that brother relationship and trying to replace it with Clay, who's his like best friend slash agent. I just don't buy the relationships as much. They don't feel as genuine, they don't feel as deep, and I just don't care as much as I did in the previous 6 seasons. So I really want to finish the show, but I just don't care about the storylines as much anymore. Finally, let's go ahead and talk about what movies I saw this month. I only saw one movie this month, but it was a fantastic movie, so I can't complain. No, I saw 2 movies this month actually. I take that back. The first movie I saw was Transformers: The Last Night. This is a very interesting movie because I was like, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It had every aspect that you would expect from a Transformers movie. There was crazy intense car chases and crazy intense transforming montages and like a lot of really cool gadgets and stuff, but at the same time, the mythology of this installment was just so weird. Like, it didn't make sense with the previous 4 movies, and we had Stanley Tucci playing a character that he didn't play in the last movie, but he's again in this movie, and they just put a beard on him. It felt like he was probably contracted for 2 movies, and they just didn't reuse his initial character, so they gave him Merlin instead. It was just a really weird story. If you just don't think about the mythology, A+ Transformer movie, it was incredibly entertaining, and I still really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed the female lead in this movie. I really liked her attitude towards all the male and female characters who were like trying to put her into a box and tell her she had to live this one way. And then the last movie that I saw this month was Girls Trip, which this movie is amazing. This is a masterpiece of perfection and comedy and relatability, and I fucking love it. Kind of reminded me of like a Hangover but with girls type of vibe. These 4 best friends who have been best friends since college, who haven't hung out together in like 5 years. They go to New Orleans, they get totally trashed, do crazy shit like zip line across buildings and pee on crowds of people, and drink absinthe, which was my favorite scene in the whole entire movie. If you've seen the movie, the lamp scene with Queen Latifah slayed my soul. I came out of this movie theater with the worst headache because I was crying so hard, because I was laughing so hard. On top of it, was also so relatable. There were so many moments of like true friendship and true confrontation and true points of tension in friend groups that they commented on, and how women interact with each other and how they interact with like their careers and with their kids and with their spouses, how friendships evolve and grow over time. And I just found it to be so relatable. I just appreciated everything that this movie did. It was just so phenomenally done. So that is it. Those are all of the books that I read and movies that I watched in the month of July. I'd love to know what you guys did in July. Tell me in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!